Imagine you're walking through a quiet forest at dusk, the cool air settling in, the peaceful rustle of leaves surrounding you. Suddenly, you hear a twig snap behind you. Your heart races, your body tenses, your senses are alert, and you prepare to flee or fight. This is not just a survival instinct, it's your reptilian brain, an ancient part of you that has been hardwired for millions of years to keep you safe. But what if I told you that this ancient, primal mechanism that was designed to protect you has been hijacked? What if fear, which once kept our ancestors alive, is now being used against us? What if fear is no longer just an emotional reaction but the tool to manipulate how you think, feel, and act? In today's video, we'll dive deep into this concept, revealing how fear is used as a powerful weapon of control and how, instead of falling victim to it, you can take control and turn it into your greatest strength. The human brain is an incredibly complex organ, but within it, there's one part that stands out for its sheer importance in survival: the reptilian brain. This is the oldest part of your brain, responsible for basic functions like survival, reproduction, and territorial defense. It sees threats everywhere, real or imagined, and it reacts quickly, often without your conscious involvement. Back in ancient times, fear of predators or rival tribes was necessary for survival. The same response would keep us alert and ready to react to danger. Fast forward to today, and while we no longer face the same physical dangers, that same part of our brain is still at work, responding to modern threats like social rejection, career instability, or even the fear of missing out. This shift in fear triggers the same physical response, sending you into panic mode, where reason takes a backseat to primal survival instincts. But here's the thing: once you recognize that this is happening, you start to regain control over your actions, thoughts, and emotions. A few years ago, I experienced this firsthand when I had to give my first lecture. As I stood on stage, I froze. My mind went blank, my body stiffened, and all I could feel was fear. That wasn't me failing, that was my reptilian brain hijacking the situation. What I learned in that moment is that understanding this fear and pausing to breathe is the first step toward mastering it. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions in the human experience. It shapes behavior, decisions, and beliefs more than any other feeling. The problem is, those who understand how fear works can use it to control you. Governments, corporations, and even media outlets have mastered the art of fear manipulation, whether it's through fear of crime, fear of illness, or fear of societal rejection. Consider the way fear is used in times of crisis. Take, for example, the global threats we face today: terrorism, pandemics, or economic collapse. Fear of these threats leads people to accept extreme measures that they would otherwise resist. Whether it's giving up personal freedoms or accepting surveillance, fear convinces us that these actions are necessary for our survival. Philosopher Michel Foucault called this biopolitics, where fear is used to regulate populations and control their behaviors. The more afraid people are, the more willing they are to accept restrictions and control without question. As you face fear, your brain naturally triggers one of three responses: fight, flight, or freeze. These reactions were once essential for survival in the wild. But today, they often hinder us in our daily lives. The fight response leads to aggression: lash out at others, engage in arguments, or become defensive, thinking you need to protect yourself at all costs. Flight, on the other hand, might manifest as avoidance or procrastination, where you run away from difficult situations or opportunities because you're afraid of failing or being judged. Finally, the freeze response leaves you stuck, unable to move forward or make decisions, paralyzed by the very fear that should be motivating you to act. Now, let's pause and reflect. How often have you experienced one of these responses in your daily life? How often has fear stopped you from achieving what you want or from taking the next step in your personal journey? The truth is, these reactions no longer serve us in the same way. The next time you feel fear creeping in, stop and ask yourself, is this a real danger, or am I letting my mind run wild with imagined threats? Fear operates invisibly in our lives, often driving us to make choices that don't serve us. Let's look at how fear manifests in ways we often don't realize. The fear of aging keeps billions of dollars flowing into the cosmetic industry. The fear of illness drives people to spend money on unnecessary supplements or treatments. Fear of social rejection causes people to stay in unhealthy relationships or avoid speaking their truth. Fear of poverty traps people in jobs they despise, keeping them stuck in a cycle of dissatisfaction. These fears are amplified every day by the media and advertising. They tell you that you need to look younger, stay healthy at all costs, fit in with society, and avoid failure. But the truth is, once you recognize these patterns, you can start to break free from them. The key to mastering fear lies in recognizing when it's influencing your actions. Fear often presents itself as irrational anxiety or emotional responses that feel disproportionate to the situation at hand. Perhaps it's that sense of dread before a big meeting or the overwhelming urge to procrastinate on a project you know is important. Or maybe it's the sudden urge to react harshly to criticism or to avoid a challenging situation altogether. When you find yourself acting from a place of fear, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this fear legitimate, or is it my brain trying to keep me safe by stopping me from stepping outside my comfort zone? Here's the empowering part: fear doesn't have to control you. In fact, you can turn it into one of your greatest strengths. The first step is creating space between stimulus and response. When fear strikes, don't react impulsively. Instead, pause, breathe, and take a moment to assess the situation with clarity. Start by practicing discomfort in small ways. Wake up earlier, speak up in meetings, take on a challenge you've been avoiding. The more you expose yourself to fear in controlled ways, the easier it becomes to face bigger challenges. Reward yourself for taking action, no matter how small. And use meditation as a tool to calm your mind, allowing you to face fear from a place of peace and inner strength. Throughout history, many masters have demonstrated the power of transcending fear. The samurai practiced mushin, a state of mental clarity and emptiness where fear could not enter. Indian yogis spent years disciplining their bodies and minds, learning to rise above fear through meditation and self-control. And the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, taught that emotional mastery was the key to true freedom. When faced with fear, they remained grounded, unshaken by the chaotic forces around them. These figures didn't simply survive fear, they mastered it. And through that mastery, they found a deeper sense of freedom and purpose. In the modern world, there are many examples of individuals who have confronted their fears and used them as a springboard for success. Elon Musk, for example, faced the fear of financial ruin several times, yet he continued to innovate and push the boundaries of technology, ultimately changing industries. Oprah Winfrey turned her difficult childhood into a platform of influence and empowerment, while Nelson Mandela spent decades in prison, yet never allowed fear or hatred to dictate his actions. These individuals show us that fear doesn't have to be a barrier, it can be the fuel that propels you to greatness. If you want to master fear, here are some practical exercises that can help reprogram your mind. 1. The pause technique. Count to 5 before reacting to any situation. This brief pause will allow you to respond with clarity instead of impulse. 2. Fear inventory. Write down your fears, then challenge each one. Is the fear based on facts, or is it an imagined threat? 3. Visual rehearsal. Visualize yourself succeeding in situations that usually scare you. See yourself thriving in the face of fear. 4. Controlled exposure. Gradually face the things that scare you in small, manageable doses. This will desensitize you and make fear less powerful. The final lesson here is that living consciously, rather than reacting automatically to fear, is the path to freedom. Fear, when not addressed, can control your life, dictating your choices and keeping you trapped in old patterns. But once you start mastering fear, you begin to create your reality, not out of impulse, but from a place of intentional power. The choice is yours. Will you remain a prisoner to your primal instincts, or will you rise above them and master your fear? The path is not easy, but every conscious decision you make, every time you face your fears head-on, is a step toward true freedom. So the next time fear arises within you, don't shrink back. Face it, transform it, and step into the life you truly desire. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Esoteric Philosophy for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping your life.